Okay, so Tesla is what we're diving into for this deep dive.
Yeah.
And not just any Tesla. We're talking about their latest head-scratcher, the Cybercab Robotaxi.
Yeah, it's got the industry talking, that's for sure.
Yeah, talking is one way to put it.
Yeah.
So picture this, right? Elon Musk on stage in LA unveils this like sleek, sporty, two-seater coupe, and he's calling it a robotaxi. I mean, this thing looks like it belongs more on a racetrack than like picking up fares at the airport.
It's a head scratcher, it really is. I mean, you think about it, taxis are all about like moving as many people as efficiently as possible. And this reveal, well, it felt a little out of touch.
Yeah, like can you imagine trying to hail this thing for your family of 4?
Right.
It's almost comical.
Yeah.
And the market seemed to agree. Tesla stock took a 9% nosedive the very next day. Yeah, investors hit the brakes on that one. Sent a pretty clear message that this wasn't the game changer that some people were maybe hoping for. And you know what's interesting is this isn't the first time that we've seen this kind of two-seater commuter car dream kind of fizzle out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like, tell me more about that.
So think back a few years. Remember those like tiny fuel-efficient cars? They were supposed to like revolutionize city driving.
Yeah.
You know, the perfect solution for solo commuters zipping through traffic.
Vaguely, yeah.
I feel like they tried to make them look futuristic at the time.
Yeah, they did, yeah. I don't see a lot of them on the road these days.
Exactly. They flopped. And the reason they flopped gets to the heart of why this Cybercab reveal is so perplexing. Because, you see, people, they might say they want a small, efficient car. But in reality, they also need space for groceries for kids, you know,
Sure.
that occasional IKEA trip.
Right. It's like those gym memberships everyone buys in January.
There you go. Good intentions, but real life kind of gets in the way.
Exactly. So when Jonathan Elfalin over at Edmunds.com said that this Cybercab design ignores the basic needs of most taxi riders, he's not just being snarky.
Right.
He's highlighting like a fundamental flaw in the concept.
Totally. And it's not just him. Sandeep Rao, a senior researcher at Leverage Shares, pointed out that the two-door car market is practically a rounding error. Like we're talking 2%, a measly 2% of car sales in the U.S.
Yeah.
And that's excluding SUVs and pickups, which, you know, they dominate the market these days.
It's a niche market for a reason.
Right.
And it really begs the question, is Elon so focused on disrupting the taxi industry that he's kind of forgotten what makes a taxi a taxi?
It's a great question. And it gets at the heart of, I think, what we're unpacking today. Because on the one hand, you have Musk painting this grand vision of robotaxis being cheaper than public transit.
Right.
He's aiming for this ridiculously low operating cost, like 20 cents a mile,
Yeah.
which almost sounds too good to be true.
It does. And that's the catch, right? Notoriously light on the details.
So on the one hand, we have this like futuristic looking, albeit impractical, two-seater robotaxi. And on the other hand, radio silence on how Tesla actually plans to make this work. Like what about mass production? The regulatory hurdles. This isn't a thing you can just put out there.
Right.
What about the competition that's already miles ahead? What do you make of all that?
It's classic Elon Musk, right? Big on vision, short on specifics. And it has some people wondering, is this Cybercab reveal more about grabbing headlines than a viable business plan?
It's not like Tesla's the only game in town, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to like muscle into a market that already has some heavy hitters.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about companies like Waymo, Cruise, Zoox. These companies have been laser focused on robotaxis for years now,
Oh, yeah.
racking up millions of miles in real-world testing.
Right.
And their designs make a lot more sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, Waymo's robotaxis, for example, they're like little self-driving minivans.
Right.
Spacious four-passenger vehicles. Designed with like practicality in mind. Even Amazon's Zoox robotaxis, which, yeah, they look a bit more like futuristic pods or whatever.
Sure.
They can still comfortably fit 4 people. It's almost like they get that people like usually travel in groups sometimes.
Right. It always comes back to that user experience.
Yeah,
You know?
good.
If you're designing a service for the masses,
Right.
you got to consider things like accessibility, convenience, and let's be honest, how many grocery bags you can fit in the back.
Totally.
And a two-seater sports car doesn't exactly scream practicality.
It really doesn't. Even John Krafik,
Right.
the former CEO of Waymo, he chimed in on this whole thing.
Yeah. What'd he say?
He called Tesla's design more playful than serious.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this is not a guy known for making waves or, like, stirring the pot.
Right. Exactly.
And he brought up a really important point that often gets, I think, overlooked in these, like, flashy tech reveals, which is Accessibility. A two-door design might look cool in a brochure or whatever, but it's a non-starter for like elderly passengers, people with disabilities, or let's be honest, anyone who's ever struggled to get out of a two-door car in a tight parking spot.
For sure. Yeah, it's a good point.
Okay, so we've established that the Cybercab's design has left experts, investors, kind of scratching their heads a little bit.
At least.
And the competition is, at least light years ahead in terms of like real-world testing, practicality, all that.
Yeah.
So where does that leave Tesla? Is this just another case of overpromising and under-delivering?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because, I mean, this is Tesla we're talking about, right? This is the company that single-handedly made electric cars, like, cool, desirable.
They've done it before.
They have defied expectations before, so writing them off completely, I think that's foolish.
I think so, too.
Some analysts like Blake Anderson over at Tesla investor Carson Group believe this Cybercab could be a strategic first step.
Okay.
What if this isn't the final form?
Interesting.
What if this is just Tesla's way of dipping their toes into the Robotaxi pool?
Like a trial run, a proof of concept to kind of get some skin in the game while they continue to work on a more, shall we say, practical design.
There you go, yeah. Think of it like a beta test.
Okay.
They could use this Cybercab to gather data, refine their self-driving algorithms, get a better understanding of the regulatory landscape.
Okay, so maybe this isn't Tesla betting the farm on a two-seater robotaxi future.
Right.
But there are still a lot of ifs involved here.
A lot of ifs. And let's not forget, even if this is just a stepping stone, they're entering a market that is notoriously complex.
And expensive. Developing self-driving technology is not cheap.
Massive financial undertaking.
Yeah.
And Tesla just scrapped plans for a more affordable electric car to focus on these robotaxi ambitions.
Wow.
So the stakes are incredibly high.
Talk about putting all your eggs in one very sleek, very impractical basket.
Right. And remember that whole thing about Musk aiming for a 1 cents per mile operating cost?
Yeah.
That's going to be tough to achieve even with a more conventional vehicle.
Especially if they're serious about that 20-seater robovan they teased.
Oh, yeah. You mean the one that looks like a party bus from the future?
Yeah.
Not exactly the picture of cost efficiency.
Not really. Okay, so maybe we need to, like, pump the brakes on the whole robotaxis are going to be cheaper than the bus narrative for now.
Yeah.
But let's just say, for argument's sake, that Tesla does manage to, like, overcome the odds, right? They somehow make this two-seater design commercially viable. They navigate the regulatory hurdles. They, like, catch up to the competition, all that.
Right.
What's the end game here?
Well, that's where things get really interesting because Musk has hinted at a much grander vision for these robotaxi ambitions.
Grander how? Like, does he want to be the Uber of self-driving cars? Or is this something, like, totally different?
Think bigger. Musk has talked about Tesla's Robotaxi network becoming this massive, like, AI-powered ride-hailing service. But there's a twist.
Okay, there's always a twist.
Right. He believes it could generate, like, billions, maybe even trillions in revenue, not just from fares, but from, wait for it, the cars themselves.
Okay, now you've lost me. How can the cars themselves be out there making money when they're not driving people around?
So imagine a world, right? Your self-driving Cybercab drops you off for work.
Oh.
And then instead of just sitting idle in a parking garage somewhere, it joins the Tesla network, starts giving rides to other people.
So, like, my car becomes this, like, mini entrepreneur earning its keep while I'm, like, slaving away at my desk.
Exactly. Musk has even suggested that these robotaxis could be designed to, like, operate autonomously in a ride-hailing fleet for, a certain number of hours per day, generating income for their owner.
Okay, so that's a pretty bold vision.
Yeah.
I mean, is this even, like, remotely feasible? Are we talking about a world where car ownership becomes, like, a side hustle?
It's definitely a radical departure from, how we view transportation today. And look, we got to acknowledge that Musk is known for his, shall we say, ambitious timelines.
That's one way to put it, yeah.
So a fully autonomous, revenue-generating robotaxi fleet, yeah, that might be a ways off.
Yeah.
But the point is, Musk isn't just trying to disrupt, the taxi industry. He's aiming to, like, revolutionize the whole concept of car ownership.
So instead of just selling cars, Tesla becomes, like, this mobility platform.
Exactly. And that's why this Cybercab reveal, as head-scratching as it may be, we can't view it in isolation, right?
Right.
It's a piece of a much larger, much more ambitious puzzle that Musk is trying to, put together. Whether it all comes together, well, that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. And
Yeah.
it brings us back to that, like, lingering question, right?
Yeah.
Is this sleek two-seater cybercab a strategic first step towards a future where our cars are out there making us money while we sleep? Or is it like this costly detour on the road to, self-driving dominance?
Only time will tell. But one thing is for sure, Tesla and Elon Musk, they will definitely keep us guessing.
They're good at that.
Debating.
Yeah.
And maybe even shaking our heads in disbelief every once in a while.
That they will. So to all of our listeners out there, keep a close eye on any announcements coming from Tesla about their robotaxi ambitions. Pay attention to those production timelines, how they plan to make this whole two-seater design commercially viable. And most importantly, look out for any hints about this grand vision of a self-driving, revenue-generating car fleet. Because if Musk's track record is anything to go by, this story is far from over.